record, notice of this meeting has been provided as required under Chapter 231 PL 1975, specifying the time, date, location, and the extent known. The agenda by posting a copy of the notice on the municipal building, municipal court, and 2 municipal library bulletin boards, providing a copy to the official newspapers of the township, and by filing a copy in the office of the township clerk in accordance with the certification by the clerk, which will be entered into the minutes. Mr. C, would you please take the roll?
Councilman Bullard?
Here.
Councilwoman Cahill?
Here.
Councilman Khan? Councilwoman Lombardi?
Here.
Councilwoman McCollum?
Here.
Councilman Shaw?
Here.
Council President Early.
Here, please stand for the flag salute.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 5, comments from administration and council regarding adjournment of many matters on the agenda. Item number 6, open to the public, comments regarding item number 13, consent agenda items. We're going to move right to number 13 first. Consent agenda items. For efficiency, items have been consolidated into consent agenda to be voted on together. Materials of these items have been distributed to the council in advance of the meeting. At this time, are there any items that the council would like removed from the consent agenda to be discussed or voted on separately? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Steve, please take the roll.
Climate delay.
Climate denial. Climate delay is 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 climate denial.
Climate delay is climate denial. Climate delay is climate denial. Climate delay is climate denial. Climate delay is climate denial. Climate delay is climate denial. Climate delay is climate denial.
Climate delay is climate denial.
You are out of order. Please do not interrupt this meeting.
Yes.
Please.
Passes. Item number 7, on the second reading, amending Chapter 14, Building Section 1.3 fees, construction permit fees, and Chapter 2 administration, Section 2-9.9 municipal clerk, additional duties. This is also open to the public resolution. Please read the ordinance. Procedure.
Be it resolved by the Township Council, Piscataway Township, New Jersey, that an ordinance entitled Ordinance to Amend and Supplement the Revised General Ordinances of the Township of Piscataway, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 2, Administration, Section 9, Municipal Clerk, Chapter 14, Building, Section 1, Connection Fee, Service Charges, was introduced on the 10th day of September 2019 and had passed the first reading and was published on the 13th day of September 2019. Now therefore be it resolved that the aforesaid ordinance, having had a second reading on September 24th, 2019, be adopted, passed, and after passage be published together with a notice of the date of passage or approval in the official newspaper. Be it further resolved that this ordinance shall be assigned number 19-22.
This is open to the public. Any comments? Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Steve, please take the roll.
Councilman Bullard?
Yes.
Councilwoman Cahill?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lombardi?
Yes.
Councilwoman McCollum?
Yes.
Councilman Shaw?
Yes.
Council President Early.
Yes, item passes. Item number 8, ordinance on the second reading, purchase of block 12502, lot 10.05. This is also open to the public resolution adopting ordinance. Mr. Seaver, please read the ordinance.
Be it resolved by the Township Council of Piscataway Township, New Jersey, that an ordinance entitled, An Ordinance for the Purchase of Block 12502, Lot 10.05 in the Township of Piscataway was introduced on the 10th day of September 2019 and had passed the first reading and was published on the 13th day of September 2019. Now therefore be it resolved that the aforesaid ordinance, having had a second reading on September 24th, 2019, be adopted, passed, and after passage be published together with the notice of the date of passage or approval in the official newspaper. Be it further resolved that this ordinance shall be assigned number 19-23.
This is open to the public. Any comments? Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Steve, please take the roll.
Councilman Bullard?
Yes.
Councilwoman Cahill?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lombardi?
Yes.
Councilwoman McCollum?
Yes.
Councilman Shaw?
Yes.
Council President Early.
Yes, item passes. Item number 9, ordinance on a second reading, establish a governmental private energy aggregation program. Is open to the public resolution adopting ordinance. Mr. Cedar, would you please read the ordinance?
Be it resolved by the Township Council of Piscataway Township, New Jersey, that an ordinance entitled Ordinance of the Township of Piscataway, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, to establish a government private energy aggregation program in the Township of Piscataway in order to provide electric generation service and supply service for residential customers pursuant to the Government Energy Aggregation Act of 2003, Public Laws 2003, Chapter 24, NJSA 48:3-92 et sec, was introduced on the 10th day of September 2019, and it passed the first reading and was published on the 13th day of September 2019. Now therefore be it resolved that the aforesaid ordinance, having had a second reading on September 24th, 2019, be adopted, passed, and after passage be published together with the notice of the date of passage or approval in the official newspaper. Be it further resolved that this ordinance shall be assigned number 19-24.
This is open to the public. Any comments?
This is the ordinance, right? Herb
Please
Tardens,
state your name and your address, and you have 3 minutes in which to speak.
Herb Tardens, 411 New Market Road, Piscataway. I was under the impression that this council was comprised of public servants, but that does not seem clear to me anymore. It seems to me that you're serving political bosses whose wishes are, it seems like your whole attitude and desire is to stay on this council by getting the county line in the primary election. You're not serving the people of Piscataway. You're serving political bosses with this ordinance, and it's time to do the right thing and show some backbone and stand up to the political bosses in town and do the right thing for the people of Piscataway.
Ann Bastian, 113 Fountain Avenue. I know you're all feeling very self-congratulatory that you are in the 68th rank of the top 100 nice places to live in Money Magazine, noted Money Magazine, right? But actually, I looked at the methodology for how we got that ranking, and it does not include any environmental factors. It includes healthcare factors. Healthcare factors are what happens after you get sick from a bad environment. They're not what helps you stay well. So I looked at some other rankings of how towns are ranked according to their environmental standards. We're not even close. We're not only not in the top 100, we're not even like as good as Baton Rouge, Louisiana. If you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. So what would make us have a high environmental ranking and be considered a green place to live? It would be passing the ordinance that's going to be on the referendum. Thank you.
Hold on.
Sounds like that one's cut now. So
Yeah.
thanks. You're welcome.
I appreciate it. To get that kind of ranking, the ranking that you're going to need in the future, the ranking that young people in this room deserve, you've got to have the kind of ordinance that we put on the ballot, not the one that you've just passed or are going to pass. You don't have a commitment to renewable energy. You don't have any timelines, you don't have any goals, you don't have any imperatives. You have absolutely nothing that says your aggregation program is going to reach 100% renewables by any date. You have no commitment to the future of this town. Who's going to come and live here? And how are housing values going to be maintained when this becomes one of the filthiest places in a filthy place? A place that already gets Middlesex County an F rating from the American Lung Association. You are not moving forward, and once again, I don't know who you serve, but you serve the past. And it's really time for you to think about the future of this town.
Hello, Laura Leibowitz, 102 Stratton Street South. I'm here because I'm very proud of living in Piscataway, and I think this is an absolutely amazing opportunity if we pass 100% renewable and 100% clean energy as a leader in Middlesex County. We have been the leader in democracy. The banks of the Raritan began with us in the 1700s. We have beautiful parks. We have beautiful trees. We are bounded by the beautiful Raritan River. We have beautiful diversity in this town. We have amazing education in this town. Amazing public schools, an amazing university right next door. Those children, and those students represent the future, and this council represents the heart of democracy where we live in Piscataway. Let's lead. Let's show the townships in Middlesex County what it's like to pass an ordinance that brings in 100% of the future. Clean energy, 100% renewable. We can be the beacon. Middlesex County and this state can look to Piscataway, and we can continue to be the proud Piscataway residents that we are. When this council does the right thing and passes the ordinance, not the dirty ordinance, a clean ordinance, 100% renewable and 100% clean energy. Thank you.
Pratik Patel, 29 Redbird Road. So I've listened to you guys, and in some cases I do support, but I just have a general question. How many of you guys actually drive electric car here?
This is actually directed at the council. It's not directed at the public.
Okay, you only council.
I mean, the council people.
So there are two things when issues like this come in. I don't believe in singular form of energy, it's just bad science. Energy independence comes with energy choices, and it should be all form of energy rather than one form of energy. And just in a general trend, when they nowadays talk about public-private partnerships, I think that line is getting very blurry because the private institutions are becoming as big as public, so we have to be very mindful about that. And in terms of when accountability is structured, when they are saying that the residents should be put in line, and if they get the rebates back with the promises that this energy is giving, then I can understand. But if there is no feasibility study done, then oftentimes those promises actually turn into taxpayers' liability. So I want to be
Thank you
sure
very much
that.
for that statement. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
So much.
Anyone else?
Good evening, Junior Romero. I'm at 100 Bayard Street in New Brunswick. I'm also with an organization called Food and Water Watch, an environmental group. Only a couple days after hundreds of students, Rutgers, many of whom live here in Piscataway, go to the Bush and Livingston campuses, almost nearly 1,000 actually. Many of them are here today. A lot of our allies that live in Piscataway also joined them at the march. And they were calling for, they had clear policy goals. Transition to 100% renewable energy ASAP, and reduce our fossil fuel carbon footprint. Today's ordinance that this council is going to be voting on is based off of anarchic energy, fossil fuels, oil, gas, nuclear. It makes no mention of renewable energy. The ordinance that this council had the opportunity to vote on that will now be put to the voters in November clearly outlines what's in line with climate science, what's in line with the IPCC, voting in transitioning our country, our world, but here in Piscataway, we could have transitioned to 100% renewable energy ASAP, but this ordinance does not meet that. We urge this council to table the ordinance that you have. If you're not going to table it, add in the demands that are in the referendum, that 1,500 of your constituents signed a petition for transitioning Piscataway to 100% renewable energy. You heard us say it earlier, but climate delay is climate denial. The science is clear. We need to do everything we can to rapidly transition off of fossil fuels. And this council is not doing that. I don't know if this council has been informed, but a Faulkner Act referendum, if it passes, will supersede anything that this council passes. I want to make sure that's clear to this council. I don't know if you've been informed of it. So I don't know why only a couple weeks before the election this council is even considering an energy aggregation ordinance when we are certain that the voters will pass an energy aggregation ordinance with 100% renewable energy standards in it. So again, I urge you to table your ordinance or pass the ordinance that looks exactly like the referendum because climate delay is climate denial. Thank you.
Anthony Wild, 2250 Plainfield Avenue North. I support what these folks have been saying. And just this week, data came out about particulates from diesel fuel, from diesel burning, that crosses the blood placenta barrier. So it's actually getting to embryos. And in July, virtually every day in July was a climate, was a climate alert, an air alert, air quality alert. So I really can't imagine why you wouldn't do something to help the children and future generations of people who will live in Piscataway. It just boggles my mind. Thank you very much.
Do I have a motion?
We're not.
Motion.
Okay. So are you closing public comment?
Taking a vote. Do I have a second?
Second.
So you're closing public comment?
Climate delay is climate
You
denial.
did not
You didn't announce that you were closing
Climate
public
delay.
comment.
Let her speak.
There we go. I think there are kids who want to speak.
Let Stacy speak.
Do you want to speak? Does anybody, I mean, if people want to speak, maybe they should line up so that the council knows that they want to speak. Good. Come on, Caleb. Go ahead, Brianna. You guys want to go? It's your future.
How you want to go?
You can sure. It's your town council, honey.
Go ahead, honey.
Go ahead if you want to.
Go together.
Well, while they work it out.
Go together.
Yeah, there you
We'll
go.
give you 3 minutes.
Okay, well, I'm gonna give my,
We'll give you 3 minutes, Ms. Berger.
okay, I'm gonna give these children a little bit more time.
Go first. Go first. You have to say your name.
You have to say your name. Here, you want me to hold? There you go. Oh,
My name is Brianna. I live in Lincoln Ave, 44 Lincoln Avenue.
that's it. Okay. Well, you want to show them your sign?
Do you want to read it?
Caleb, you read.
All right.
Hey Waller, pick a side.
I think that's the Earth and Donald Trump, right? So, thank you for giving me 3 minutes. Big round of applause for the young people who came out of their enormous time to be here. You guys have anything else you want to say?
Caleb wants to say
Oh, Caleb wants to say
Caleb
something. Okay. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Caleb and I live in 74 Lincoln Avenue.
Okay. Anything else?
I'm gonna say
Read it. Go ahead.
You die of old age. I'll die of climate change.
Anything else?
Those are future voters. We owe it to them. I'm Stacy Berger, I live at 233 Ellis Parkway. We owe it to them to make sure that they have clean air to breathe. And it's unconscionable to me that this council made up of Democrats would sit here and delay and obfuscate and muddy the waters on an ordinance when you have the opportunity to lead. I don't really think I can say it better than Ms. Leibowitz said it. We could set a great example for other communities. And instead of passing the clean air ordinance and protecting kids like Brianna and Caleb and my kids and the kids of your children and the children of other people who live here, the 60,000 residents, you're choosing to pass a dirty air ordinance. I don't really know how you come to that. Given 2 weeks ago and 3 weeks ago, we sat here and you said you had to do all kinds of due diligence and you were on the same page with everyone, but you needed more time. But instead of doing the due diligence that you said you were going to do, you came up really very quickly with a proposal to do exactly the opposite of what 1,500 residents asked you to do, which is to make sure that Piscataway has clean air. We get an F in our air quality. We have no renewable energy committed in the proposal that you all are putting forward, and you're doing it intentionally to confuse voters about the November 5th ballot question. So it's up to us, I guess, as residents and organizers and committee people to make sure that people know what the truth is. It's really shameful, and I'm disappointed in you all.
Is there a motion to
Do I have a
table the
motion?
ordinance? Is there a motion to
Motion to
table the
table.
ordinance?
Second. The ordinance.
Second.
The ordinance.
All in favor?
I'm closing the public portion. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Wow.
Second.
How can you do
Mrs.
that?
Seaver, would you please take the roll?
Where's your heart?
Councilman Wood. Councilman Martin. Councilwoman McCollum.
Yes.
Councilman Shaw.
Yes.
Council President Allen.
Yes, item passes. Item number 10, ordinance on first reading.
Mr. President.
Supplementary chapter 10.
Right. There obviously we need, between Raj and I, we need to, I think, clarify, because obviously there's been misinformation distributed amongst the community.
Yes, by
I
you.
thought we were very clear at the last meeting when Ms. Berger asked what the ordinance is for. So what we're doing is we're following what the law is in the state of New Jersey in order to do energy aggregation. This ordinance, all it does is allow us to begin the process. The process is you need to pass an ordinance on it. The ordinance has to take effect. We have to pick a company to do it, which is Good Energy, which is under contract with the Middlesex County Education Services Commission, or I think it's now the New Jersey Education Services Commission. They're the company that does the bidding, that does the aggregation, that sets the standards for what we're looking for. This has nothing to do with what we're looking for in whatever program we put out. And if we did nothing and the ordinance passed on election day, at a subsequent meeting we would be adopting the exact same ordinance because this is what the law requires. This is merely a step to hire a company that then works. We need, the first thing we get is we go to PSC&G and we get the energy profile of Piscataway for all of our residential users. They provide that to Good Energy. Then Good Energy would take a look at what we have, the profile. We would tell them what we want to set, like we do every year. We currently buy 25% of our energy. We set that as clean energy for the municipality. So all this is just a legal step in moving towards aggregation. Now I'm not sure what Junior. I'm surprised that Junior doesn't understand the law because Junior does this for a living. But this is what we're required to do. This sets nothing. To refer to as a dirty ordinance is somebody completely missed the boat on what the purpose is. And I imagine there's probably been a lot of misinformation out there in the community. It's a very simple thing. Ms. Berger or anybody else could have picked the phone and we could have explained what the purpose of this is.
I was right here.
And we would have been very clear,
You
we're
make
very
no
open,
commitment to
we're being
renewables.
open,
There's no
we're being
commitment to renewables.
we're being open and we're being transparent, which is what Ms. Berger always says, you should be open and transparent. That's exactly what we're doing. So the next step with this is it's approved by the council. The next step is we will submit this to Good Energy. They will submit it to PSC&G on our behalf to get the energy profile of our town. Once you'll get the energy profile, then you can determine if we do 100%, if we do 50%, if you do 75%.
Exactly. We want 100% now.
What the cost is going to be. There was a letter in one of the newspapers this week by a reverend in Essex County talking about a community that was pushing 100%. And they did estimates in their community, and the estimate that would cost each homeowner approximately $1,000 more. As regressive on some members of the community. So we're doing our due diligence. The ordinance is still on.
That was a fossil fuel back.
Ordinance is still on. You can talk over me. I'm still going to answer the question.
I'm telling you what that.
The ordinance is still on for a vote. And if the ordinance passes on election day, this information that we're going to collect is going to be directly used in support of that ordinance. So, Raj, I don't know if there's anything else that you want to add.
No, you've got it on the head. I mean, I think that this council is always green energy forward and has been working with that. Like I think we've said in the past, that I think we're about 35% already green energy. The township actually obtains for itself.
Municipality, that's inaccurate.
No, that's the township.
The township only,
yes.
not the government,
Yes,
not the
that's what
residents.
I said the township contract. I said the township contract.
Lawyers don't know that.
So, like the business administrator said, that this is just the first step to determine what type of level of green energy would be a good basis
100%.
to not raise rates on the residents,
100%.
but also be able
100%
to
renewable
provide
energy
some more
won't
green
raise
energy.
rates, and if it does, we need to do that because we have to save the planet. We need clean air.
I'd also, just wanna, I think the ordinance that is on for the election isn't 100% now. If you look at that, that's 100% by 2035,
Right, you've been trying to do
2045.
your
So,
due diligence.
I just wanna clarify that as the audience keeps indicating 100% now, that's not what their initial ordinance had provided.
Commitment.
100%.
Item number 10, ordinance on the first reading, supplementary chapter 10, health regulations, 10.12, open burning fires, and this is a resolution adopting ordinance. Mrs. Seer, would you please read the ordinance?
Be it resolved by the Township Council of Piscataway Township, New Jersey, that an ordinance entitled Ordinance Supplementing Chapter 10 Health Regulations of the Revised General Ordinances of the Township of Piscataway, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, being is hereby adopted on the first reading, that it be published in the official newspaper, and that a second reading and public hearing be held at 7:30 p.m. prevailing time at the Piscataway Municipal Building, 455 Hose Lane, Piscataway, New Jersey, on the 15th day of October 2019. Be it further resolved that a copy of this ordinance shall be posted in at least 2 public places within the township prior to the day of the second reading and final passage, and a copy of this ordinance shall be made available at the office of the township clerk for any interested member of the public.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Seer, please take the roll.
Councilman Bullard?
Yes.
Councilwoman Cahill?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lombardi?
Yes.
Councilwoman McCollum?
Yes.
Councilman Shaw?
Yes.
Council President Irwin?
Yes, passes. Item number 11, ordinance on the first reading, amending chapter 21 zoning, 1014.3, solar panels, and this is also a resolution adopting ordinance. Mrs. Seer, would you please read the ordinance?
Be resolved by the Township Council of Piscataway Township, New Jersey, that an ordinance entitled Ordinance to Amend and Revise the Zoning Ordinances of the Township of Piscataway, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 21 zoning, Section 1014.3A, solar panels, being is hereby adopted on the first reading, that it be published in the official newspaper, and that a second reading and public hearing be held at 7:30 p.m. prevailing time at the Piscataway Municipal Building, 455 Hose Lane, Piscataway, New Jersey, on the 7th day of November 2019. Be it further resolved that a copy of this ordinance shall be posted in at least 2 public places within the township prior to the day of the second reading and final passage, and a copy of this ordinance shall be made available at the office of the township clerk for any interested member of the public.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Seer, would you please take the roll?
Councilman Bullard?
Yes.
Councilwoman Cahill?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lombardi?
Yes.
Councilwoman McCollum?
Yes.
Councilman Shaw?
Yes.
Council President Irwin?
Yes, item passes. Item number 12 on the first reading, amended chapter 31, section 1.5, insurance required. This is a resolution adopting ordinance. Mrs. Seer, would you please read the ordinance?
Be it resolved by the Township Council of Piscataway Township, New Jersey, that an ordinance entitled Ordinance to Amend the Revised General Ordinances of the Township of Piscataway, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 31, Section 1.5, Insurance Required, being is hereby adopted on the first reading, that it be published in the official newspaper, and that a second reading and public hearing be held at 7:30 p.m. prevailing time at the Piscataway Municipal Building, 455 Hose Lane, Piscataway, New Jersey, on the 15th day of October 2019. Be it further resolved that a copy of this ordinance shall be posted in at least 2 public places within the township prior to the day of the second reading and final passage, and a copy of this ordinance shall be made available at the office of the township clerk for any interested member of the public.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Seer, would you please take the roll?
Councilman Bullard?
Yes.
Councilwoman Cahill?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lombardi?
Yes.
Councilwoman McCollum?
Yes.
Councilman Shaw?
Yes.
Council President Irwin?
Yes, item passes. Item number 14, announcement and comments from officials. Jim?
Yes, as many of you know that in Piscataway we have the municipal lions, and that is, we get involved in quite a number of things, and one of the things we are involved in is the Governor's Council on Alcohol and Drug Abuse. What that basically means is the Alliance to Prevent Alcoholism and Drug Abuse, creating healthy and safe communities. Now, just last week, there were what I will call the 219 Volunteers of the Year, and we were quite lucky. Miss Amy Bowman She is our director over in the senior center. She was the one who actually got the Alliance, the volunteer of the year for the county. All right, so I just thought I'd let you know that. Now, Amy has been with us for 10 years, and in addition to the 10 years she has been with us, she also had 2 years in another organization, and she was part of their alliance as well. So I must say that that young lady does a lot of work for this community. All right?
Thank you.
None at this time, Council President.
Michelle?
I just would like to say that I'm very proud that we're listed as one of 2 towns in New Jersey to be listed on Money Magazine's Great Places to Live for in the whole country. So I'm very proud of that. So kudos to Piscataway Township.
Don't take a deep breath.
So I echo those same comments, and I also want to state that today is National Voter Registration Day. So if you have not registered to vote, which I can't imagine that anybody here in this room has not done that, but please feel free to reach out, and I encourage people to reach out to others who may not be registered to vote. We have this upcoming November election, and we all know that 2020 is a huge election, so just I'm asking people to go out and recruit people and take the opportunity to ask them to register to vote.
We will.
Don't be your truck.
No comment.
Item number 15, open to the public. Please state your name, your address, and you have 3 minutes in which to speak.
Maybe we should make a line.
Oh, I'm just Anthony Wild, 2250 Plainfield Avenue North. Actually, I have a question on the $3 million $3.5 million change order for the Community and Cultural Arts Center, and I'm wondering, that seems like a very large change order. What's involved with that?
So it's actually the phase 2 of the program. The program was originally to be phase 1 was the interior component, and the phase 2 is the exterior component. And right now, this is the first change order on the property, and they're about 4 months ahead of schedule and under budget. So in talking with the construction manager and the contractor and my CFO, we're able to accelerate phase 2 from 2 years from now into the current budget that we have. So we're amending the current contract to do the outdoor component, which will be done for the spring.
Thank you.
Fred White, 607 Ellis Parkway. I expect that when you talk with the people at Good Energy, that they will probably ask you what your intentions are or what you think the residents of Piscataway want. And of course they want low energy costs. You know, nobody has money to flush away down the toilet. That's a given. And they're voters. And I understand that. But maybe you've heard the expression that money isn't everything. And what I'm trying to mention here is that you're going to look at figures, and they're not the whole economics. I'm the father of a daughter who almost died of asthma when she was 2 years old. And air quality matters for people who have emphysema, COPD, asthma, and others. So there are social costs to poor air quality, and I would like you to take those into account when you do your deliberations. Also, there's some very simple things that could be done to improve life in Piscataway, one of which would be, the last several weeks I bicycled over here for one matter or another, and there's no bicycle rack out that I could find. I don't like tying my bicycle up to a staircase because in case people had to get out in a hurry, they couldn't. My bicycle would be obstructing the way. The other thing is, I understand, or I think that the certificate of occupancy for the warehouse at 800 Centennial Avenue hasn't been given. I would ask that you have signs put up, or ask the landlord or the tenant that trucks should not be allowed to idle That's all, thank you.
So we've met with Good Energy, and because we're also part of the SEM, so we buy our electricity through the SEM, and in general, what has been proposed is easily achievable for the next bunch of years. In the ordinance, we're actually looking to go beyond that. If we were to be doing it, we would look at about, probably starting out at about 50%. You can set, when you're bidding it, you can set whatever goals you want, and then they price per goal. The important thing when you're bidding electricity is the average bid is usually for about 18 or 19 months. So your goal may be the next 30 years, you can't bid energy for 30 years. So we're going out, for instance, for our street lighting again, we're going out in October. We're finishing right now a 19-month contract. We probably will get, depending on where oil prices are in the middle of October, we're going to probably get somewhere between a 16 and 20-month contract. So, for instance, New Brunswick is doing their goal towards 100% renewable. The important thing to remember is they're going to be bidding that every 18, 19, 16 months. You're not bidding it for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years. So you could say our goal is 35%, and when you're bidding at sometimes the bids are going to come in higher, sometimes they're going to come in lower because the energy markets fluctuate. But we do take that into account with all of our bidding when we bid our electricity, and we will in the future. And if the ordinance passes, we're still going to be doing these bids. The ordinance doesn't set a thing for the next 40 years. It sets a goal, and we're still responsible for bidding this stuff every 18 months, 16 months, 15 months, whatever is out there. So we do take that into consideration.
James Boyle. I'm a Rutgers University student. I would just like to correct the record. You mentioned the New Brunswick ordinance just now. There was an assertion made that these types of ordinance may increase the cost for residents. That New Brunswick ordinance is now saving each individual house $100 a month. So I would just want to correct that and make sure that this council knows that this is a cost saver for residents and is also protecting this community from any future public health crises from air quality.
That it's not saving as much as you said. It's saving approximately $60 to $70 per year. And the reason we talked with Good Energy, who was involved with that operation too, why it's important that we get our profile is New Brunswick has a unique profile because you've got so many apartments and so many dormitories that are empty in the summertime. The load that the energy companies look at is they look at your prior 12-month load. So your normal load for electricity is lower in January, February, March, starts rising in April, May, peaks in June, July, and August, and then starts falling in September, October, November, December. New Brunswick, because of the number of students that are there and because of the number of vacant apartments and vacant dorms, their load is flatter than most loads, and that's what they attribute that they're able to do to get the savings that they're getting. There's no telling whether that savings is going to carry on into the future because of energy prices, but because the load may shift as Rutgers has more activities and more people living there during the summer and as more people moving into New Brunswick, that load potentially may shift. And that's why it's important that we pass the ordinance tonight so that Good Energy can get our profile for PSC&G and see what our load is. I would anticipate our load is more towards the bell curve, which is the average residential load in New Jersey.
What about Livingston and Bushwick?
Yeah, I don't understand that at all. The fact that there are many student residents in Piscataway, I
There are
don't.
many more rental homes in New Brunswick, though, student rental homes.
So Rutgers University here has their own power facility. They're not on our grid. So the Rutgers dorms on Rutgers property will not be counted into our profile. Our profile is separate. We're going to have our residential profile and our commercial profile. When you're bidding energy, you don't bid commercial because the commercial users buy enough energy that they're allowed to negotiate on their own. So the guy that owns one of the data farms, for instance, they negotiate with whoever they want to buy their own power. So the only thing that we're gonna be able to bid out regardless, either under the ordinance or not, is going to be the residential. And the Rutgers component in Piscataway is not gonna be included in that. And why it is in New Brunswick is in the summertime, the dorms are empty, they don't have air conditioning.
They're not empty, I can tell you that. As someone who has lived in those dorms in the summer, they're not empty.
The majority of student dorms.
And I think it's concerning.
I don't want to argue with you, the majority of student, you can check this out, the majority of student dorms and apartments in New Brunswick are empty during the summertime. You can get that information right from New Brunswick.
Well, I'll ask that, but I think it's concerning that we're even having a debate whether we're going to be 50% or 65%. The fossil, like I am from down near the shore. I lived through Hurricane Sandy and the nightmarish aftermath that was caused by a disaster that was anything but natural, but was the direct result of the fossil fuel industry, an industry that knew the science 30 years ago, actively misled and sowed doubt for decades after that, and will stop at nothing to suck out every last drop of carbon out of the ground, regardless of what impact that has on the rest of us. But I would say that there is a movement now that is growing and is escalating. I helped organize the global climate strike in New Brunswick just this Friday, and it was an action that brought out thousands of residents and students, and they are demanding accountability and action from people like you. And they will continue to escalate and raise their voices, and I would be very concerned if you continue to not listen to all of these people who are standing here right now. And I urge you strongly, I want you to think about the children and people like me, the ones who will make up the future generations, and also the ones who are living right now, whose futures are at least partially in your hands. And this is about them. Climate change is not about how we're going to fill a balance sheet or what this council, it's about them. It's about us coming together and making sure that we have a livable future for all of us. Thank you.
I want to amplify what was just said, because when I mentioned that I thought you were living in the past, what I meant by that was we're moving into a period of very rapid, dramatic, and drastic change. And your projections of energy rates based on the number of coal units or the number of apartments that were rented or the price of renewables is going to be, that chart that you've been tracking over all those years is going to be blown out of the water. We have no assurance in the next decade. Another Hurricane Sandy, tell me how the refineries in New Jersey are going to be doing. You can't base your entire commitment in this case on a bunch of small figures, as the student just said. You have to look at the big picture here and what's happening in the future. And you have to be part of making what happens in the future turn out as best as we possibly can after we have screwed up for decades. And I don't see any commitment to that. You've refused to make a public commitment to renewables. You have refused to make a public commitment to 100% goals. You have refused to look at a timetable that the rest of us can hold you accountable to. All you've talked about is having the flexibility to negotiate your rates every 18 months with no guarantees to the public. And let me add, many of us don't really trust you. And we don't trust you because you've had the opportunity to act and you don't. So all we can see in this is another political ploy on your part, and I'd like to leave with this message. We've heard that all you think we're about is raising problems and aggravations for you, making your work harder, because we want power. And I'll tell you this, I am a retiree. I don't want your power. I want you to lead. I want you to use the power you have in the right way. I'm not after your job, I want you to do your job. Thank you.
What Ann said. We want you to do your job. I'm still Stacy Berger, still at Ellis Parkway. I don't know if any of you saw the comments yesterday at the UN by Greta Thunberg, the young woman who started the global climate strike. I don't know what happened at this mic. But she was pretty clear that, she doesn't think people should be caring about money and the fairy tale of economic growth. And I kind of thought maybe she was talking to you all, because that's all I ever hear here, is how much and how much and how much. I think it's really important that people understand whether it's your ordinance or it's the people's ordinance, everyone who wants to can opt out. So when you go out and you tell untruths to people, and I know that you will because we've heard it, we heard from people over the weekend that you were out telling people that we were going to make them put solar panels on their house, which is not true. So we know you're going to tell people things that are not true about the Clean Air Program, and tell them things that are also not true about your Dirty Air Program, and that's what it is, because it has zero renewables, and the good energy folks are happy to sell you emission-free energy. That's nuclear power, people. That's not renewable energy. That's nuclear power. And so if you really want to do something, you need to make sure that you're doing the right thing and telling people the truth about what the program is. And the first truth is that people who don't want to be in it can opt out. So last time when Ms. McCollum talked about the neighbor she talked to whose mom was in Jersey City and her energy bill was too high, that's because she signed up with a third-party supplier, not because she was part of a municipal aggregation program. So it's really important. Well, you can opt out. You can opt out after 30 days.
Berger, what happens if 70% of the people opt out? What happens then?
I don't think that's happened in any aggregation.
That's what's happening.
Oh,
Because you don't know that.
Well, do you know that it's happened?
Okay, no.
Do you know that it's happened? So why are you even coming up with that number?
That's because
energy aggregation has been around. Okay,
that's what
you
we
want to
want to
talk?
do.
Just
Yeah.
pause my time.
No, it's fine.
Thanks.
You're welcome. That's the reason we're doing this study. And I can appreciate wanting clean energy. I want it too.
Well,
So
then
it's
get
not-
it.
It's not.
Go get it. You have the power to do that.
But there is a process, right? And
Yeah,
what
your
we're trying
process
to
is
do
slow and
is-
delaying and
cost-
denying.
And I understand what you're saying, cost is not a factor. Someone
I didn't
just-
say that wasn't a factor. I said it isn't the only
You just
factor.
got finished stating, so let me just say this. How many people in here have an electric car?
What is what?
Okay,
And solar panels?
How many people have solar panels? Some people can't afford solar panels, some people can't afford a new car, some people can't afford
That's why we want this program, Chanel. That's exactly why we want this program. You know, people can use their own buying power. I agree with you. Not everybody can afford that.
I agree with you.
Then do something about it instead of just
That's
talking.
exactly why we're doing the study.
No, the reason you're doing the study is to be able to go out and tell voters they don't have to worry about it because you guys are already taking care of it. We have seen this play before. We know exactly the kind of mistruth and misinformation that you
I
all...
have spoken to people that you've spoken to, and they have told me that the right information has not been communicated. So I'm going to tell you.
I don't know. Okay, well, I've spoken to people who you told they were going to be solar panels, but I was going to make them put solar panels on their house. So I don't know who's telling the truth.
I wasn't even in this country this past week. I was in Budapest.
I wasn't this week. It was over. You were around during the primary. I hope you had a nice time. And in Budapest, I'm sure they do energy differently. But that's not the issue. The issue is that we have the opportunity to do something, and we are looking to you to do the right thing. If people feel that their energy bill goes up by $5 a month and that's too much for them, then they can opt out. I just want the public who's watching to know that information that they're going to get from you, and I suspect from the...
And we just want to be honest with people. We want to...
Right, so do we. What we want to be honest about is that delaying climate... Okay, we want to be honest too, and honesty is absolutely the best policy. So you're not going to tell people that we're going to make them put solar panels on their house like you did during the primary?
When did I say that, Ms. Berger?
Somebody did. We've had multiple people tell us that people on this council did that. Okay, well, maybe it wasn't you, but it was certainly one of your colleagues. And secondly, we want to make sure that people know that they can opt out if they don't want to be part of it, and that businesses need to opt in. And third, that if you are delaying climate change opportunities, if you are delaying a chance to fix climate change right now, you are the same as a climate change denier. You are denying people the right to be part of a process that can save their planet and save their future.
People can opt out. Okay, people can go right now and choose their own form of energy. They do not need to wait for November, nor do they need to wait for us to pass it.
And we didn't need to wait 16 years for you guys to develop a municipal aggregation program, but all of a sudden, this is on the ballot.
I'm telling you, people can do it right now.
Sure they can, but that's not the issue before you. The issue before you is whether or not this council and this community is going to have leadership to do the right thing and when we know what the science is and we know what people want. 1,500 people put a petition on the ballot. You could have listened to them and led. And at any point you could, okay.
People in this township is taking care and taking everyone in this town into consideration. That's leadership.
I would love to see some of it.
When will it start?
That's leadership.
When will it start?
I'd love to see it any day, Michelle.
Like you did for Atif Nazir?
Yeah.
Council members, Junior Romero, 100 Baird Street, New Brunswick. I just wanted to clarify what's going to be voted on in November. It's basically creating not only a community energy aggregation program, but it's also ensuring that renewable portfolio standards are in that. The state can pass renewable portfolio standards. Fortunately, the state has not taken bold action on renewable energy. We certainly are not getting that from the national level. So what will be voted on in November's election will be creating renewable portfolio standards for Piscataway, as well as a great community energy aggregation program. I would actually not advise anyone to go out and get energy on third party on their own, because you have the power in numbers with this energy aggregation program. The cost is just, the numbers speak for themselves. The cost is always cheaper when a community is both purchasing together, just like when you go to Costco and you buy in bulk. So I urge everyone to vote yes. I hope this council will vote yes on the ordinance in November, because the Faulkner Act and this ordinance survives politics. The Faulkner Act, if you wanted to change the Faulkner Act, you would have to go to the ballot to change that in a couple of years. So we urge everyone to vote yes, so we can create a renewable energy standard here in Piscataway, so we could always have 100% renewable energy. If the town finds that they want to do 50% renewable, 100% renewable, that's great. The ordinance says at least 30% by 2020, at least 100% renewables by 2035. If the council wants to be more aggressive, they could be. That's what New Brunswick did. And I want to reiterate, I know there are some people on this council that probably did want to vote yes on the petition ordinance a couple of weeks ago when we had this the vote, and I appreciate those. I know maybe your vote is secret. Your vote is secret in November, and I urge you to vote yes, so we can create this renewable energy standard that will survive different mayors, different councils, and so we can have greater Piscataway, and so we can fight climate change locally. So, thank you.
Good evening, members of the council. My name is Charles Cradaville. I'm a resident in New Brunswick, but I love it here in Piscataway, and I do have family here. And here on a different issue than everybody else, but I do want to commend everybody who spoke, especially Junior, who I know helped New Brunswick make that program a reality. And I just encourage anybody who wants more information to go to renewablnb.com, and you can see what the end result is of that program being put into action, and I encourage you to reach out to the New Brunswick officials, and it's something that so far has been a good thing for our community, and I hope you'll bring it to your community and to actually take a stand and support the yes vote in your town here. But I'm here because I went to the Township website and I saw on the front page still a announcement about, it's titled Piscataway Mayor Blasts Rutgers Alcohol Sale Proposal. And of course, this is Mayor Waller taking objection to the policy that Rutgers started of having expanded beer and wine sales. And of course, that policy did go into effect. He had some strong words back in February saying he was, quote, strongly challenging the proposal by Rutgers University. And he said things like there had been no prior notice to the township officials, no communication with the police department. So I'd just like to ask him to clarify if this is still his position and how he feels about the new policies in place for this football season.
So we raised the issue because we read about it in the paper, and we've been very successful. We've had meetings with the athletic director, with the Rutgers staff, with the head of alcoholic beverage control for the state of New Jersey, and we're able to iron out some concrete rules that everybody agreed to, including Rutgers and the vendor and us. And it was a little dicey at the end because they actually had a contract clause that what they do is that they allow volunteers to sell at the concession stands. and the volunteers get 15% of the sale. So they actually had wanted the volunteers to sell the beer, not get a 15% cut out of the beer sales, and indemnify Rutgers and the vendor for doing that. So you're asking the Girl Scouts, for instance, to take on a responsibility for beer sales at Rutgers. So in the event that somebody gets overserved and has an accident or slips on something. So actually we fought up until the Wednesday of opening day, and at the last day there, we had a meeting actually on that Monday with the athletic director, where the mayor pointed out our concern about that and its effect on volunteers. And by Wednesday, they capitulated, and they have taken that out of the contract. They now indemnify the volunteers, which is good. They are doing 100% carding. They've limited sales to end in the third quarter, which we asked them to do. They're doing stepped up enforcement so that people over 21 can't hand off beers to people under 21, which was one of our concerns. So while we were kept out of the dark in the beginning, they finally brought us into the tent, and we were able to work constructively. I think Raj would agree, work constructively with them to make sure that it's done in a safe manner, and we are monitoring the sales right now to make sure that the first season goes well. And we agreed at the end of the first season to meet again and take a look at the positives and the negatives and make some changes if necessary for next year. So we're satisfied.
Okay, well, thank you. I am a proud alum of Rutgers, and I do have some concerns about the township's relationship with the university. Is it true that there's currently litigation where the township, I believe, brought suit against Rutgers? Can I get an update on that case and what brought this about?
Yeah, there is currently litigation. You can get the documentation online through e-courts. It's available to anybody. Currently it's pending right now. It's in the preliminary stages, so there's really not much of a status update at this time.
Okay, and it's the township that brought the claim, correct?
Yes.
Okay, what is the claim?
It's in regard to sewer usage and sewer connection fees.
Okay. So I will follow up about that. I would like to see Rutgers be more cooperative with my city and your township, and for there to be stronger connections between those. And to that end, I think you might want to actually remove this statement from the township website. The part that bothers me the most here is Mayor Waller gives special powers to our governor that he does not have. It says, quote, Mayor Waller is calling on Governor Phil Murphy to veto the university's Board of Governors minutes, which would have the effect of nullifying the measure. And correct me if I'm wrong, council or the mayor, but the governor doesn't have that power. He doesn't have the power to veto the actions of the Rutgers Board of Governors, just like the mayor doesn't have the power to veto the minutes of your meetings and the votes that you take. And gosh, I don't think that Phil Murphy needs any more power right now. I think we have a situation where we don't have a county prosecutor right now, which should be of concern to every citizen in the county. And Governor Murphy, whose job it is to replace that individual, has not said word one about what he's going to do or when, and has not even reassured the public about the person who is the acting county prosecutor yet. So I think that that statement should be removed from your website, if for no other reason than it includes that inaccuracy. And I hope that you'll take that action. Thank you.
Laurie Woods, 102 Stratton Street South. I just want to do a little touch back to the relationship of Good Energy with PSE&G. You say that they have a relationship. Just a really quick Google search tells me that on the front page of corporatepseng.com, it states, PSE&G Power possesses sizable generation assets which are exceptionally diverse, with a balance of fuel sources, nuclear, gas, coal, and oil. Those are the primary sources that PSE&G are quoting as their places where they are getting energy. So as we move forward, passing an ability to aggregate I again encourage you, do not work with vendors that are supporting PSE&G where they are clearly stating their first fuel sources in 2019 are nuclear, gas, coal, and oil. Please do not pass any proposition or ordinance that does not look to the future, look for vendors that are green, that are clean, and that are going to do the best for the citizens of Piscataway, New Jersey, and our planet. Thank you.
So what you do when you have an auction for the power, you said what standards you're looking at, and it's opened up to a nationwide auction. We are on the power grid up in the Northeast. Generally, all the companies that are on that power grid will bid. PSE&G has not bid on any of our bids that we put out because of our requirement for clean energy. I'm explaining to you.
Yeah, I listen.
So what happens is that we, like, for instance, we buy energy from Constellation Energy and other energy companies. Once you put it out to bid, everybody's entitled to bid on it because it is a free market.
I appreciate that. And as the consumer, we then have the right to determine who we're going to purchase from, right? I can choose to shop anywhere I want. You're going to make decisions about where you're going to shop with our money. And so I would again continue, as you are shopping and choosing vendors, to choose those vendors that are moving in the right direction.
Herb Tarbus, 411 New Market Road. Mr. Dacey, I appreciate the explanation. It's been clear to me that the ordinance that was passed tonight was exactly what you had spoken about. I appreciate your competence in explaining it. Unfortunately, as Ann said before, to a person, we simply do not trust the elected officials in this body. We simply do not trust them, and that is because they are part of a corrupt political organization headed by Ted Light. And we have ample evidence to show how corrupt this organization is. With the lies that have been put forth during primary elections, my wife and I ran for county committee, and we had neighbors telling us that we wanted to build a football stadium. Blatant lie, blatant lie. We had, this past year, I was running as an incumbent. My opponent put out literature saying that they were the incumbents. I spoke to Ted Light about it. He basically told me tough, right? This is the organization you're part of. This is the Piscataway Democratic Organization is a corrupt organization. It makes a perversion of democracy. You are all guilty of being part of that organization. The use of the county line has been condemned by Good Government Council of New Jersey. It is a corrupt way to go about business. Any of you that run on the county line for election are showing a tremendous amount of corruption and cowardice by not engaging in democracy. We simply do not trust them, Mr. Dacey. We do not trust them. This is a political ploy in our eyes in order to muddy the waters, and is strictly being done to stand in opposition to the progressives in our town. Thank you.
Sid Madison, 176 Blackford Avenue, Piscataway. I'm here to ask the council to act on a resolution that has Governor Murphy declaring a moratorium on fossil fuel projects in New Jersey. A draft resolution for that purpose was submitted via email to the council in July, and I stopped by here in August and asked about it. The following explains why you should act. After explaining that climate change is already impacting the world and needs action taken to stop and reverse it, Al Gore asked in this Sunday's New York Times op-ed, and I quote, "Is it really too much to ask now that politicians summon the courage to do what most all of them already know is necessary?" The answer is no. We should ask government to take action, but we must ask for significant action. In New Jersey, this is stopping new fossil fuel projects. Why? More from the op-ed. In 10 years, Solar and wind electricity will be cheaper nearly everywhere than the electricity that exists from fossil fuel plants will be able to produce. Later, he indicates that this year, several American utilities have announced plans to close existing natural gas and coal generating plants, some with decades of useful life remaining, to replace their output with cheaper electricity from wind and solar. In other words, forward-looking decisions are planning to close fossil fuel plants. In New Jersey, ground zero for the fossil fuel industry to build more infrastructure, there are 15 projects that should be stopped that are making fossil fuel pipelines, basically. If not, we will pay more for those projects in our utility bills. And this is a thing that you're interested in, which is cost to consumers. That is the rationale for having Governor Murphy declare a moratorium, which is what the resolution asks him to do. Basically, what I'm talking about is stopping the fossil fuel infrastructure that's going on in New Jersey. It's going to cost us money in the short run because we're going to pay for that in our utility bills. And in the long run, they're going to have cheaper fossil fuels, and that's going to compete with clean energy, and that's going to be a problem. We need to deal with this issue now, and cost actually shouldn't be the criteria for making these decisions. We have a climate crisis, and any action that you're taking that does not take into account that we have a climate crisis is not, it's just got to include. And if it includes more cost for people that are out there that may or may not vote for you, you should still be leading if it costs more for them. Because the costs that you actually pay don't really show the cost of the future to the rest of the world and to our climate. That cost doesn't show up in the price of the utility bills. What needs to happen is you got to get the clean energy. If you don't get the clean energy, it's not going to make a difference what the prices are now. Anyways, back to the resolution. The resolution asks Governor Murphy to have a moratorium on fossil fuel projects. It will reduce costs in New Jersey. It will provide for cleaner air. Both of those things are things that you want to do. Also, all these people out here want to do. And that's why I asked you to look at that resolution. Any questions?
No.
I got a question for you then.
Excuse me, sir, your time, your 3 minutes are up. All right.
When am I going to get some feedback on my question?
Don't hold your breath.
3 minutes are up, sir.
Okay, I'll be back in a minute then.
I want to close the public portion. Do you have a motion? Adjourn. Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.